In Norse mythology, the Einherjar singular Einherji literally army of one, those who fight alone, one two are those who have died in battle, and are brought to Valhalla by Valkyries. In Valhalla, the Einherjar eat their fill of the nightly resurrecting beasts Saerma, and Valkyries bring them meat from the udder of the goat Hydra, and the Einherjar prepare daily for the events of Ragnarok, when they will advance for an immense battle at the field of Vigridhar. The Einherjar are attested in the Poetic Edda compiled in the 13th century from earlier traditional sources, the Prose Edda written in the 13th century by Snorri Sturluson, the poem Haknamal by the 10th century skald Eyvindar Skaldaspillet as collected in Heimskringla, and a stanza of an anonymous 10th century poem commemorating the death of Eric Bloodaxe, known as Eriksmål, as compiled in Feigskinna. An etymological connection exists between the Einherjar and the Harrier Germanic people or figures from early Germanic folklore attested in the 1st century AD, and scholars have connected the Einherjar to the eternal battle of Hjadningavig and the Wild Hunt. The Einherjar have been the subject of works of art and poetry. In the poem Varfrudnismal, Odin engages the wise Jotun Varfrudna in a game of wits. Disguised as Gagnradar, Odin asks Varfrudna where men fight in courts every day. Varfrudna responds that here Einherjar is translated as Einherjar. All the Einherjar fight in Odin's courts every day. They choose the slain and ride from battle. Then they sit more at peace together. 3. In the poem Grimnismal, Odin disguised as Grimna tells the young Agnajiridsson that the cook Androma boils the beast Saerma, which he refers to as the best of pork, in the container Eldroma, yet adds that but few know by what the Einherjar are nourished. 4. Further into Grimnismal, Odin gives a list of Valkyries Skjold Skogel Hildar Fludharlok Heftratur Gol Jirhod Rangrid Radgrid and Reginalef, and states that they bear ale to the Einherjar. 5. Towards the end of the poem, another reference to the Einherjar appears when Odin tells the king Jirad, unaware that the man he has been torturing is Odin, that Jirad is drunk, and that Jirad loses much when he loses his favor and the favor of all the Einherjar. 6. In the poem Helga Gudhar Hundingspanna, the hero Sinfdutli fights with Gudmundur. Sinfdutli accuses Gudmundur of having once been a female, including that he was a witch, horrible, unnatural among Odin's Valkyries, and that all of the Einherjar had to fight headstrong women on your account. Crowded around the doorways. Hai responds that there are plenty of doors, and that crowding doesn't occur around them. In support, Hai again quotes a stanza from Grimnismal in chapter 41. Gangleri notes that there are very many people in Valhalla, and that Odin is a very great lord when he commands such a troop. Gangleri then asks what entertainment the Einherjar have when they're not drinking. Hai responds that every day the Einherjar get dressed and put on war gear, and go out into the courtyard and fight each other, and fall upon each other. This is their sport. Hai says that when dinner time arrives, the Einherjar ride back to Valhalla and sit down to drink. In reference, Hai quotes a stanza from Grimnismal 12. In chapter 51, Hai foretells the events of Ragnarok after the god Heimdallr awakens all the gods by blowing his horn Jalav, and they will assemble at a thing. Odin will ride to the well Mimisbrunna and consult Mimir on behalf of himself and his people. The world tree Yggdrasil will shake, and then the Issa and the Einherjar will don their war gear. The Issa and Einherjar will ride to the field Vigridhar, while Odin rides before them clad in a golden helmet mail and holding his spear Gunnar, and heading towards the wolf Fenrir. 13. In chapter 52, Gangleri asks what will happen after the heavens, earth and all of the world are burned and the gods, Einherjar and all of mankind have died, noting that he had previously been told that everyone will live in some world or other forever and ever. Hai replies with a list of locations and then describes the re-emerging of the world after Ragnarok. 14. The Einherjar receive a final mention in the Prose Edda in chapter 2 of the book Skaldskaparmal, where a quote from the anonymous 10th century poem Eriksmål is provided. See the Feigskinna section below for more detail, and another translation from another source. What sort of dream is that, Odin? I dreamed I rose up before dawn to clear up Valhall for slain people. I aroused the Einherjar, bade them get up to strew the benches, clean the beer cups, the Valkyries to serve wine. For the arrival of a prince. 80 The end of the Heimskringla saga. Hakna saga Godhar. The poem Haknamal, by the 10th century Skald Eyvindar Skaldaspilai, is presented. The saga relates that King Haakon I of Norway died in battle, and yet though he is Christian, he requests that since he has died among heathens, then give me such burial place as seems most fitting to you. The saga relates that shortly after Haakon died on the same slab of rock that he was born upon, that he was greatly mourned by friend and foe alike, and that his friends moved his body northward to Seheim in North Hordaland. Haakon was there buried in a large burial mound in full armor and his finest clothing, yet with no other valuables. Further, words were spoken over his grave according to the custom of heathen men, and they put him on the way to Valhalla. The poem Haknamal is then provided 16. In Haknamal, Odin sends forth the two Valkyries Gondol and Skogul to choose among the kings, kinsmen and who in battle should dwell with Odin in Valhalla. A battle rages with great slaughter. Haakon and his men die in battle, and they see the Valkyrie Gondol leaning on a spear shaft. Gondol comments that groweth now the gods following since Hakon has been with host, so goodly bidden home with holy godheads. Haakon hears what the Valkyries said, and the Valkyries are described as sitting high-hearted on horseback, wearing helmets, carrying shields, and that the horses wisely bore them. 17 A brief exchange follows between Haakon and the Valkyrie Skogul. Hakon said, "Why didst Skogul grudge us victory? Though worthy we were for the gods to grant it." Skogul said, "'Tis owing to us that the issue was won, and your foemen fled." 18. Skogul says that they shall now ride forth to the green homes of the godheads to tell Odin that the king will come to Valhalla. In Valhalla, Haakon is greeted by Hermodr and Bragi. Haakon expresses concern that he shall receive Odin's hate. Hollander theorizes this may be due to Haakon's conversion to Christianity from his Norse religion, yet Bragi responds that he is welcome. According to John Lindo, Andy Orchard and Rudolf Sink, scholars have commonly connected the Einherjar to the Hari, Germanic tribe attested by Tacitus in his 1st century ad work Germania 21-22-23. Tacitus writes, "As for the Hari, quite apart from their strength which exceeds that of the other tribes I have just listed, they pander to their innate savagery by skill and timing. With black shields and painted bodies they choose dark nights to fight, and by means of terror and shadow of a ghostly army they cause panic, since no enemy can bear a sight so unexpected and hellish. In every battle the eyes are the first to be conquered." 22. Lindo says that many scholars think there may be basis for the myth in an ancient Odin cult which would be centered on young warriors who entered into an ecstatic relationship with Odin, and that the name Hari has been etymologically connected to the Herja element of Einherjar. 21. Science says that since the connection has become widespread, one tends to interpret these obviously living armies of the dead as religiously motivated bands of warriors who led to the formation of the concept of the Einherjar as well as the wild hunt. Sine continues that the notion of an eternal battle and daily resurrection appears in Book 1 of Saxo Grammaticus Gesta Danorum and in reports of the eternal battle of H. Jadning Gavik 23. According to Gudbrandur Vigfusson 1874, the concept of the Einherjar links directly to the Old Norse name Iona. Vigfusson comments that the name Ionos properly equals Einherji and points to a relation to the term with the Old Norse common nouns Ion, meaning bold, and Ionidh meaning valor.